In 2020, I bought a house on the east side of the Big Island in Puna in Hawaiian Paradise Park. Everything about it seemed great at first. I'd got a really good deal. The house was a fixer-upper, and I bought it right before the pandemic started, so it gave me a project and something to work on when everything was closed and my job was slower. The house wasn't the only thing that needed fixing up. The yard needed a lot of attention. There were a lot of weed trees, different trees like the albizia and cecropia that needed to be cut down. The yard was pretty overgrown, so it needed a lot of attention. It was a lot of fun at first, and I really enjoyed the idea of homesteading, and I started to grow my own food, different veggies and herbs, and that was like really, really rewarding, and it was a lot of fun. I'm from the Big Islands, and particularly the east side, so I'm no stranger to rain. Thankfully, like the first year I had moved back there from Oahu, it was beautiful like every day. It was gorgeous sunny weather. We would get some rain, but it was, pretty much just at night. But it was kind of I would say a drought year. We did actually have to order water once for our catchment tank and have that delivered. We may have actually had to do it twice. I can't remember. But that first year was beautiful. We spent a lot of time just caring for the property, for the yard, and it was pretty rewarding. Well, 2021, rolled around, and things just seemed kind of different. We were still constantly working on the yard and doing a lot of work inside the house. It kind of started to wear at us after a year. And then it started, it was a very wet year. So it pretty much rained every day, it seemed like, for a year. Sometimes it was like, the whole day would be raining. Other times it would, clear up for a little bit. And whenever that happened, I would rush out to the yard and work on it and try to mow the lawn, pick up sticks and branches that had fallen, and just spend a lot of time kind of manicuring the yard in a way to where it would be easier to mow. I did get a riding lawnmower at one point, and that really helped doing the lawn, but we still had to, hire some yard people to help. It was an acre, and it was just really a ton of work. And my work had picked up again during that year. It started getting busy again because travel had reopened. So I just felt like really, really spread thin, and it was very hard to feel caught up ever. My plants that I had started growing during the previous year, because of the wet weather, they weren't doing so well, and eventually they just started dying, and that felt like a big defeat. It was something that I felt really proud of. Like before that, I never really thought I had a green thumb, and here it was like growing things that we could eat, and that felt really good. But it was just so wet, unless I built some kind of greenhouse or enclosure, my plants, I just didn't have anywhere good for my plants to thrive and survive. Additionally, like the first year, we didn't really have a wild boar problem. The second year, the wild boar it's like they started discovering a new plant in the yard that they wanted to eat. So they discovered the tea leaves. So they took out every single tea leaf plant in the yard. Those were ornamental, so it wasn't, as big of a deal. There had been some pineapple growing, and they were doing really well. I got so many pineapple the first year in 2020. Too many, like just so many to the point where I was giving them away. in 2021, the wild boar discovered the pineapple and took out every single pineapple plant in the yard. And there were so many growing. So it kind of went like that for a while. It felt like this battle between me and the jungle, and I've always been, as far as I can remember, like a real solid nature lover. I really, love living in harmony with the earth and nature. So it felt very confusing. Like it was me, I would spend a lot of time and energy getting something in the yard together, and then something would happen. There'd be a storm, and the yard would look beautiful, and then there would be a storm, and a bunch of palm fronds would fall, a bunch of branches would break, and the yard, the next day would look like I hadn't touched it in months. And then with the constant rain, it started, because it was so wet, there was a lot of molds that started popping up in the house. So we would clean, and then because it was so wet, we actually had dehumidifiers we would run all the time. But because it was so wet, something we had cleaned like 2 weeks before, we'd go and pick it up, and it would be, showing signs of mold again. And it just felt like a constant battle. Another really big problem on the east side that hadn't been a problem when I moved to Oahu in 2013, that is a problem now, are the little fire ants. And I had heard about them before moving back to the Big Islands, and just thought, oh my gosh, that sounds like so minor, like little ants, whatever, but we moved there, and there are these tiny little ants you can barely see. When I first moved to the house, I would walk in the yard, just walk in the yard. I'd be fully covered in like a long sleeve shirt, and somehow the ants would get into my clothes and they would bite me. These ants live up in the trees, and the bites, it feels like acid. If you're sensitive to them, it feels like acid pours on you. And then, a day or so later, it's just really, really itchy. And at points I got so many bites that I actually felt kind of sick and nauseous. So that was something that we really worked on a lot, was getting rid of these fire ants. And there's certain treatments you do. One of them is a tango treatment. It's not like a poison per se, but you do this mixture and you spray it all around the yard, and then the ants will eat it. And then, they'll bring it back to their nests, which aren't typical mounds like, normal ants have. It's like, nests in the trees, or it could be under a rock, or, it's just, the nests are everywhere. So the theory is they take that, to their nest, and it will sterilize the queen. Well, the first year, because it was so dry, we did actually do pretty well, and it was to the point where I could work in the yard. I wasn't getting bit all the time. But that next year that was really wet was harder to keep up on the treatments, because you have to have dry weather to do it. Otherwise, this mixture that you spray around just gets washed away. So, the ants just... they were really hard to get rid of, and I just felt like every single spare moment that I had, I was spending caring for the house, caring for the yard, arranging for, a different type of worker to come help us, getting a bunch of big albizia trees cut by some arborists and arranging that. And it was it just felt like a constant project that I could never, ever catch up on. So, between that and the rain, I just didn't really feel happy. I was working really long hours. And then, coupled with like every moment that was nice weather, I was out in the yard working on it and it wasn't even, it felt like at times just to like, keep up and keep it from getting overgrown. We had an acre. We were right next to the state forest. It was really a beautiful yard, and I loved it so much. I really cared for it, and felt so happy to have been able to purchase that house and property. So it was really, really confusing, feeling like I woke up every day. Every day was the same as the last. I was caring for the yard, but not really, doing anything fun or caring for myself. So yeah, it was like very, very confusing on, why am I like loving this, but kind of hating it at the same time. It felt like, it kind of felt like a trap in a way, like a beautiful trap that I loved, but I felt like, this wasn't like the life I wanted to live, in my early 40s. And I thought of it like, is this, caring for this yard going to be something I'm going to want to be doing in my 50s and my 60s and my 70s? And I just didn't feel that way. So in 2022, there's really like the strong kind of thought to like sell the house. But we'd go back and forth. We'd have friends over. They'd tell us how beautiful our yard was and how we'd be crazy to like sell and how we'd never get anything so nice again. And then I would come back to being like, well, maybe I'm just not grateful for what I have, And we had put so much time and energy into like fixing up the house, fixing up the yard, and it was looking a lot better than when we first moved there, and that did feel like good and rewarding at the same time. So, it was like every day kind of felt the same. It was a lot of rain, a lot of mold, a lot of fire ants, a lot of yard work. Still. So in 2022, it was about mid-2022, I just felt like I needed to get away. I needed a vacation. So I went on a trip. It was, 3 nights, 4 days. I rented a camper van in Maui, and I went there and I camped. And I had no yard work to do during that time. I didn't have any, house chores. It was sunny there every single day. I felt better. I felt like it was magical there. The beautiful ocean. It was just great. I felt alive. I felt great. And just that short little period of time, I knew that I could feel better than I feel every day. So, came back, and we decided to sell at that point. I really buckled down and worked on our house kind of in warp speed and started to fix all of the little things that needed to be fixed. We put the house on the market. It was a total leap of faith because we didn't have anywhere to go after we sold. Put the house on the market, and we ended up selling it. We ended up having multiple offers, a lot of showings. It was a lot of work, but it kind of felt like there was a light at the end of the tunnel, even though like I had no idea where we were gonna go after this time. And we have a cat. Finding a rental is really hard when you have a cat. So anyways, we were lucky enough to get a solid offer. The escrow was like a 30-day escrow, so it all went really, really fast. And, sold the house, sold a lot of our things, put things in storage. and started looking for rentals. I looked on the Big Island, I looked on Maui. Maui is kind of where I really wanted to be because I had such a positive trip on that, that camper van trip that I had. Something about Maui just felt, really magical. The weather was beautiful every day, in the areas I was looking at. The people were super friendly, and I thought that's where I wanted to be. But, went over to Maui looking at rentals several times. Nothing, nothing felt right. Nothing worked out. So ended up coming to Oahu, and I had lived here before. Looked at several places over here. That's where I am now, is Oahu, and nothing felt right at first, and then I found, a little apartment on the ocean, and it's walking distance to several beaches. You could actually swim in the water right in front. The idea of a condo and renting really appealed to me after all of the work being a homeowner, and the Big Island is great, and it's really appealing to a lot of people, but that just wasn't what I wanted at that point in my life, and I'm so thankful that I sold. I'm so thankful to be somewhere now that I can be in harmony with nature, be outdoors, and really enjoy it without all of the yard work, without a house to fix things. So I think anyone thinking of buying a house, specifically in Puna on the Big Islands of Hawaii, really needs to look at, everything that's involved with it, all of the yard maintenance, all of the constant care. I think it is a really special and great thing for a lot of people, but it does come with a lot of work. I'm going to cut this video short now, and I'm going to go on my morning swim, and I hope everyone has a beautiful day.